Good afternoon, everybody. I am Chair Michael O'Brien, Senior, Chairman of the Infrastructure Committee and Chairing of the Joint Committee of Infrastructure and the Board of Public Works. This is August 10th, 2021, and I'm going to call the Joint Committee to order. For the record, a Joint Committee of Infrastructure and the Board of Public Works is being held today, Tuesday, August 10th, 2021, at 4:06 in the large conference room at 9 Riverside Drive in the DPW Administrative Office Building. Some members and members of the public may be participating via Zoom teleconference. For those at home who want to participate with Zoom, please refer to the agenda on the city's website for the meeting link. I will now turn my Director Cummings, and will please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and as a reminder for those who are participating remotely, you need to state the reason why and if anyone is with you. First, Mayor Donchis.
I'm here.
Chairman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Dave Tenza, I don't believe is joining us today. Next we have Alderwoman Jan Schmidt.
I'm here.
Present. Alderman Ernie Jetty.
Here.
Commissioner Tracy Pappas.
I'm at home in a room by myself.
Thank you.
What's the reason?
She's at home by herself.
Yeah.
And is there a reason? We need to state a reason, correct?
Yeah, Commissioner Pappas, could you state the reason why you cannot attend in purpose, please?
Yes, health concerns.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Tees.
Present. Commissioner
Shoneman.
I'm here.
With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members present, you have quorum.
Okay.
And as a reminder, with a member participating remotely, we will be taking all votes via roll call. We also have other elected officials with us. Alderman Rick Dowd. I also want to just take a moment and recognize that we have Director Photo, myself, Director Cummings, and City Engineer Dan Hudson with us. And I apologize, Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. All right, so, Mr. Chairman, just a few brief remarks, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Cummings, you are recognized.
Thank you. So just a couple things I wanted to touch upon today. First and foremost, COVID is on an uptick. We want to make sure everyone feels comfortable and safe. Please, if you'd like to wear a mask, this is definitely an environment where we would encourage that. Everyone has their own unique personal circumstances, which we want to respect. And we also are encouraging people to take all the right public health protocols into consideration. What we are looking to do today is to provide the group with a general overview as to where we're at from a design perspective, and to hopefully walk away today with agreement and consensus on timeline and moving the project forward. So what we're going to do is have a presentation by the architect, and I believe Director Photo and Carl from Harvey and myself will be speaking along the way to help orientate the group. But before we get there, Mr. Chairman, I believe we have public comment.
That is correct. Thank you, Director Cummings. When we first conceived this, we were looking at the public comment factor involved. We are trying to mirror another committee. They do not have public comments, and under advice of legal counsel, we are not required to have public comment. But however, I think it's always good to hear from the public, so we are going to allow it. But the volume, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that. I wanted to look to see if there were members of the public who wanted to public comment, so we're going to need to.
We can do it from here.
Yeah,
do it from here.
Yeah, we could do it from here, yeah.
We'll have to
Yeah.
close that. So
All right, so to continue on, we're going to have public comment, but we're going to follow the same rules that within the, that seem to be our traditions, and that is the public comment is going to be 3 minutes, okay? And as with everything else, we hope that the public comments will be germane and related to items that are on the agenda. And that's the only thing that we will accept public comment on to help us make a decision. So therefore, that being said, and also too, I would like to say that the public comment is at the perusal of the chair. As chairman, I do have that particular right according to Masons or whatever. So therefore, that being said, I will open up this part of the meeting to public comment. Do I have anybody who wishes to speak? And, okay, can you excuse me, Ms. Ortolano? Could you, as our custom, can you give your name, your address, and everything? And do I have somebody with a stopwatch or a timer?
I have one right here.
Okay, Director Cummings will take the time. And Ms. Ortolano, when you're ready, please.
Yes, Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. Thank you very much. A couple things on your process for compliance with Right to Know. Just so you know, Chairman, this meeting was not posted on the website, and it needs to be. The 91A meeting section 2 says if a body ordinarily maintains notice on an internet website, then it should be reasonably accessible through that location. And I had an alderman recently email me and said one of our posting website locations is always the website, and the second one is a notice on the door. If I had not been told by a commissioner that this meeting was happening, I would have never known. It was not put there. I also just asked you if the subcommittee had met, and you said we'd met once. I could find no posting of it, did not know, never came, and have not seen minutes. Also, your minutes need to be approved. They're only draft form, and there are some inaccuracies in these records that need to be updated. So I want to be able to participate and come to these meetings and listen, but you have to make the postings such that I can find them and I know where they are. So also, there are some general questions I have about reports that were going to be attached. Obviously, first of all, this meeting has 21 people in it, and based on the Board of Health meeting last Monday that I attended, this would not be considered a safe distancing room. I don't care where you fall out with masks or no masks, but I would recommend, given what's going on with this Delta variant and the concerns that the city has, that you go to the aldermanic chamber, which is much larger. And
Ms. Ortolano, items on the agenda, if you would, please. The mask issue is a different matter. That's not to be discussed.
Okay, well, that's a safety concern, but I will address that with the Board of Health. I will write a letter and email to them, and I will address my concerns in these minutes about obtaining some documents that are referenced here with Director Copeland. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ortolano. We'll refer some of your questions to the legal department, but from what I understand, we do have certain standards, and I would be amiss, I'll find out, but the meeting should have been properly posted. I will double check on that, but thank you to bring it to our attention. Okay, anybody else with public comment? Seeing none, I will close the portion on public comment. At this time, I'm going to, oh, yes, can you identify yourself, please?
Laura Cahoon.
Okay.
I will. Greenwood Drive. I just want to say, the way you started this meeting is so disrespectful to the residents of Nashua that you should be ashamed of yourself. You may not like my comments, but we have every right to listen and speak up. Thank you.
Thank you. That being said, anybody else with public comment? I will again close the public comment portion of the meeting. At this particular time, we're going to have a presentation, and it will be done by the architect. Do you want to give the introductions, Director Cummings?
Sure, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have Janet with us of HKT Architect. She is our lead architect who will be walking us through this afternoon's presentation. I will bring it up on the screen, and happy to do the slides, so please feel free.
Okay. So thank you all, Chair. Am I able? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. I will speak as loudly as possible through my mask. If anybody has any problem, please let me know. I am Janet Slomenda, principal of HKT Architects. I've been working on this project with the city for years now, from the early study phases. We have a consultant team who is working with me on this project, civil and structural engineers, that is Hoyle Tanner and Associates, landscape architects, Ironwood Design Group, my mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineers are WV Engineering, and I have a code consultant, AKF Group. So that makes up the entire team for the project. There are other people working for the city, doing other little bits and pieces, but this is my team who is working on the building and site project. Okay. So we have been in the schematic design and we have moved to the design development phase. These are the technical portions of a construction project. There are five sections. Schematic design we have finished. We are in design development, or near completed. And these are the updates to the project based on the comments that have been received to date and concerns of the aldermen and the city themselves. So there is a plan shift to move the building north and east of the original location that we had presented last year. So that moves the driveway farther away from the abutter and preserves more of the existing trees as a buffer to the neighborhood. And so after a site visit with Lisa, and I think Alderman Jetty, that was one of the conversations that happened. And of course, along with that, the building will require changes to the landscape, for instance, to match that move. The landscape will follow the civil, of course. We've also done consultant coordination, and that's with the civil engineers, landscape architects, structural engineering, all the mechanical, electrical, fire protection work, and we've had extensive meetings with the city IP and the electrical engineer to make sure that this building is ready to go the day they move in. So it's fully planned for every conceivable system that is a part of the project. We've done minor building plan renovations based on some of that information, and the final review of operational spaces. The building hasn't grown by an inch. It's just all internal shifts to make it work better for operations. And then we've done some detailing of the exterior envelope along the way. So this is, and I'm going to highlight, Carl, I'm going to watch your head, pick you up on occasion. Originally, there is a small building right there, and we have the road coming in here. We shifted it north, and then we put the building also was closer to the road here, or closer to this tree line, and we moved the building north and east. And that allowed more trees to be maintained here. And we are still fine-tuning this parking area here. This is a design development, and if you know what design development means, that means we are in the development of the design, and from there we move into working drawings. We do any changes within design development phase, and then once we get into the construction document phase, we are literally documenting the construction for Carl Slopes to actually build. So this is the time to make these adjustments and changes. It shifted the building a little bit back, and here's a little bit of a close-up look at where the building is. So here, this is the other road coming in, and there's, this is where the recycling is and the entry to the landfill. So the building's moved a little bit closer to that operations, but a good change for the community, a good change for the abutters. Okay. And because of that, the landscape had to move. So as the building shifted, it got closer to the edge of the property here. So there's a little bit more emphasis on this side of the building and greenery. And again, we are trying to protect this tree line as much as possible. We are trying to create good public spaces for entry, and for there's entries on both sides of the building.
Yeah, excuse me just for a minute. Did we just go to the PowerPoint, or did we share on Zoom? Because apparently it's not visible on Zoom.
Okay, so that would be technical.
So, okay.
I can start over.
For a second. So you need me to share screen?
Oh,
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
okay.
There you go.
Okay,
Very
can
good,
you
thank
back
you.
up to the beginning? I will start over.
Commissioner Pats, you didn't see any of that, correct?
No, I thought it was going to be on channel 16.
So, I'm sorry, Janet, but if you don't mind starting
No
over.
problem,
so
no problem.
Commissioner Pats and anybody else that's watching can see. Thank you.
I hope I say the exact same things.
Well, she could hear you if she just.
Tim, could you minimize the pictures of
Yeah,
people
let's see if
so
I
that
can
we can?
Direct a photo, they
Yeah.
can't shoot live out of here, so this is being recorded for.
This is being recorded, that's correct.
Okay.
It will be shown.
Yes.
But it's just not live right now, correct?
Right.
Okay.
All right, how's that?
All right, go, Tim. Advance, please. Again, the consultant team, I am the architect, Janice Lamenda, principal at HKT, working with the city for many years on this project. And this is my consultant team, Hoyle Tanner Associates, my civil structural engineers, Ironwind Design Group are my landscape architects, WV Engineering Associates are my mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineers, and AKF Group is my co-consultant. So that is my team. So we are in the design development phase, and again, just to keep this all in perspective, there are 5 levels to a construction document phase. We have completed schematic design, and we are in design development, which means we are developing the design that was approved by this committee before. We have done some updates to that plan to meet things, and they include shifting the building north and east to move the entry driveway and further away from the abutter to preserve more existing trees as a buffer to the neighborhood. Their landscape always follows the civil, and those revisions will match it. We've done a lot of consultant coordination, civil, landscape, structural, mechanical, plumbing, fire protection, and the city, IT, and the electrical engineer and I and everybody has been on many meetings to make sure the building is ready to go when they move in. We've done minor building plan revisions based on that final review of operational spaces as we've looked at, where are screens, where are computers, where are time clocks, all those kind of things, but not an inch of the building has grown. And we detailed some of the exterior envelope at this point. Next. So again, now that I can point, here is the new location of the road. It used to be further south, about 50 or 75 feet north, I think, between that. It's shifted, I don't know exactly that number. And then we've moved it back to preserve more of the tree line here. And again, this parking we're all still looking at to see if we can do it better. All kinds of things. The big things to consider, and I did mention this last time, is, there is a future buildings back here, and we really are trying to keep the building tight to this so that whatever the city does on this site in the future, that we're not doing anything that would impact anything in the future. And this is slightly bigger plan for that, so you can see it a little closer. And the landscape. So once the building shifted north, it got closer to the recycling area here and those roads. So there was a little bit more emphasis on this side of the building. This is a big entry point, primarily for employees. This could be an entry for the public, and then the front entry off the main road is the main entry to the building on a day-to-day basis. So that is what we're doing for landscape. This is some of the parking that we're still looking at a little bit to see if that's exactly what we want to build. But we're trying to look at a lot of different conditions to make sure that it's the right plan. Okay. This is the first floor plan. Center entry right here, the red arrow. These yellow arrows are exit points to the building. Although that you will see people coming in those doors, particularly staff members who are parking in this direction. And this is a future connection in the rear to anything that happens back there, and also an egress stair for stair number 3. And it's the same plan. There's a center entry right there with a lobby, people to meet and greet and serve the community right here. The rest of it is operational day-to-day space, and this is the big public meeting room that will be available for the DPW and any other concerns and that the city might have and want to use it for. It's subdividable into three different portions so that you can use it many different ways on any given day. So that's the first floor plan. Second floor plan, again, you go up the stair or the elevator, you're in a public lobby, locked down here. This is a window that gets you into engineering on this side, and this is a door that gets you into administration on this side. A few small things were done on this plan to work better for the DPW staff, change of direction for this library meeting room, which is a key room for the engineering staff. Some kitchens and bathrooms got adjusted, plumbing issues, things like that. Still working to coordinate all the chases and data rooms and things like that. But we have locations named for those spaces, It's a matter of fine tuning. That's what will happen over the next few weeks as we get more and more detail on the systems of the building. This is what the building looks like. It hasn't really changed. A little more definition to the windows. The entry here in the center. It's a masonry building. In the end, it was cheaper to build masonry than do metal, a combination of masonry and metal, which is one of the other options we were looking at. But in the end, masonry is cheaper. Long-lasting material, still needs to be maintained like any buildings don't self-sustain. You have to maintain them, but it is a long 50-year product, should last the city many years to come. So that's the west entry elevation. South elevation, which is the side door where most of the employees will come in. This is a stair that is sitting out there. This is a west elevation perspective, looking from sort of that corner of the site towards the entry. You can see the blocking, coursing of the masonry. Working a little bit more on the detailing of that to make sure all the masonry coursing is correct to build this building. Next, and this is the elevation looking from the other direction. That is the big multi-purpose room right there with that's subdividable, very bright, very open space, and then an egress for them out of here. And should Lisa and the city decide that space can be used, and they want people to be able to enter there, that could certainly be set up to provide entry so that people don't have to walk through the lobby to get to that room after hours. But that's something that still has to be decided. That's a matter of locking doors and keying and fobbing and things like that. And then this is the entry perspective. This is what you're going to see. It's pretty glassy. There will be some kind of a canopy with a signboard on it right there for the public. They'll know that's the entry. It projects out of the building. Very simple design, as much windows as we could put in for the most part to get as much light into the building as possible, something that they have very little of in this building, that's for certain. So it's a pretty bright building, hopefully. Next. Timeline. This is the timeline from construction documentation through occupancy. We are going to constantly present updates to the Joint Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure. We're coordinating with Harvey Construction to remain on budget. We have a schedule for completion of documents in construction. The design development through construction documents is about a 24-week process, and we're planning to get that done by the end of this year, 2021. We'll be doing all that coordination work with all of those team members that I talked about. We'll be updating the estimate. And we'll coordinate with city boards as needed to obtain all the permits that are required. The bidding process, a 4 to 6 week process, expected in November through December 2021. We should have a number somewhere by the end of this year. And then January through March 22, we'll be doing the shop review, drawing review, which is the period of time that usually coincides with the start of construction, where we review every single thing that Carl's team puts together. All of their work gets passed back through the design team for approval to make sure that it's in conformance with our design drawings and specifications. Sometimes there are substitutions, sometimes there are adjustments, sometimes we find something new that we didn't know. That's the time to do it. And we're going to try, hopefully, to get the majority of that completed before we start construction in the spring. And then we'll have a 10-month construction period for occupancy in early 2023. And that, I believe.
Yeah, so that brings us to project costs. So hard construction costs for the building came in just recently after getting the SD updated to the DD numbers, design development numbers, at 10.525 million. And Carl is here, or maybe Carl, you want to speak to how you arrived at that?
Yeah.
At that figure?
For those that don't know me, Carl DeBoer with Harvey Construction. We looked at this as if it was a bid. We're starting to build with the subcontractor base, trying to generate interest in the project. And I got to tell you, I was very, very pleased with the response that we got back. There's a lot of interest in this project. We ended up with 3, 4, up to 7 proposals per trade. So what that's telling me, and the reason we did this, just to back up, as we all know, since COVID, you see it in gas, you see it when you check out at the food line. There's been a lot of increase based on supply and demand. So I wanted to know exactly what the subcontractor market was doing. Normally, we would take care of this ourselves, but based on the volatility of the market, I wanted it on the street. I wanted to build a consensus of subs to get them early on so they know it's coming, so they can plan for it. We're actually going to hit the street at a very good time just before the end of the year, normally when subcontractors are looking to build their backlog for the following year. It's always the best time to, as Alderman Dow will tell you, I've told him how many times on schools, it's the perfect time to be bidding. So I suspect and hope that we'll get the same response when we bid this thing. But the bottom line was, based on where we were, based on where we are, the market spoke based on the documents that were presented, that with that compilation of information per trade, whether it was masonry or steel or roofing or what have you, that the project is escalated to 10.525 right now from where we were before.
Thanks, Carl. So that's just one cost in a total project cost. You also have soft costs. We have a combination of hard numbers and soft numbers that are bringing us to a total of about $3 million. You know, that includes things like security, IT, furniture, fixtures, equipment, architectural, engineering, signage, and whatnot. So that's coming in at approximately $3 million. And then building in a contingency of about 1.4 drives a total project cost of $15 million. And when we started this conversation just a few moments ago, we talked about time and really trying to keep the project on time and making the spring start date, because time value of money. So what we know is we are at all-time lows for interest rates, but we're seeing construction costs increase 3 to 5% year over year. It's compounding. It's just going to continue. And it goes without saying, we know the operational inefficiencies that we're dealing with. So actually, with the help of Commissioner Tees, he was able to help put together some graphics for me. I really appreciate your help, Commissioner. That illustrates the points that I was trying to make in narrative form. So we know economically we're experiencing the lowest interest rate, and we're only expecting them to go back up. We believe that we can achieve a bonding of about 1.63%. That's what we achieved last time around. So what we did was we outlined what a 20-year schedule would look like for us, which ultimately shows that borrowing through 22, baseline at 1.63, we'll have about a 1.725 total project costs from a financing perspective. So interest rate is 1.725. Every year we wait is orange, and as you can see, the project just grows in cost. So I said to you, construction costs continue to escalate 3 to 5% every year. If we just take a 4% increase year over year, you can see how a $15 million project can grow very quickly. And in this scenario here, and depending on how long you wanted to wait for, but essentially over a 10-year horizon, a $15 million project can balloon to, almost 22 million in project costs. And this is a really cool slide. So this basically shows you construction costs in gray, increases in the project is in blue, with interest in green, and using various schedules, you can see how the project costs could be affected by the various differing time delays. Ultimately, the point is, time is money. We really need to, if we're going to do this project, continue to moving forward. So how do we do that? I developed a finance plan that basically shows that we have currently authorized $6 million. We just sold Burke Street at $3.6 million. We have escrow, which is cash, of about $500,000. I'm recommending that we look to repurpose some of the Broad Street Parkway funds that are surplus at this time of about $3 million. That brings us to a total project cost of about 13.1 without any new authorization of debt. What I would recommend that we do is we authorize an additional $2 million in new debt to bring us to just over $15 million so we can complete the project. And that's the slide presentation. Happy to take any questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. To the committee members, any committee member that does have a question? Alderman Jettie.
So I have a question to the design team. You know, we've been talking for some time on other projects. You know, the school, the new middle school was one of them, where we could, you know, talking about the heating system. I guess it includes the air conditioning system. You know, we just got, you know, more news this week that emphasizes, you know, the problem of you know, the crisis we have with global warming and, you know, climate change and all that. And you know, I know the city is committed to getting away from burning fossil fuels as much as possible. So my question is there an opportunity here in this building to avoid using fossil fuels to heat it and cool it and whatever else? You know, that, you know, some other...
All electric, perhaps?
Excuse me?
All electric, are you thinking?
Yeah, well, whatever, I don't know enough about it to know that, what the answer would be, but that's why I'm asking you, is there an opportunity for us to avoid burning fossil fuels? You know, this is, you know, the lifespan of this building is, what, 50 years, I heard you say? So, you know, over the next 50 years, I know there's a, you know, I think we have to consider not only the initial cost, you know, but the cost not only in dollars over the 50 years, but the cost to the environment over that 50 years. So I'm just asking, is that
we are not fossil free in this building at this point. At the very beginning, Carl and I looked with the engineer for different mechanical systems, going from the simplest rooftop unit all the way to the most sophisticated system, and there's a big cost differential between those. We did not pick the simplest system. We picked a more energy system for the building, which will preserve energy, but we did not go to the extremes. If you would like, we can look into what it would take and what would add to the project to become even less fossil fuel.
When you say add to the project, you mean add to the project?
Total cost, it is. So, you know, we knew where the numbers had to be, and so a part of that conversation was, what is that delta? I understand this because we are lead architects in our firm. All of our engineers, most of our engineers are. We do net zero buildings, which is all electric, and a lot of communities are going all electric, but there is a significant cost to that. Is the infrastructure in place to go all electric? That becomes an issue. Can we get enough PV on the roof to support it? We have a small footprint, so we don't have a huge rooftop. Should we go geothermal? Wells and things like that, so ground source heat pump, air source heat pump. We can look at those if you want. Tim's asked about a life cycle cost analysis. We could ask them to look at that or soon to see, you know, what is the delta on that. You know, that's where we are right now. But, you know, we can do all that, and, you know, no doubt, it's just, it does cost money. I have a project I'm doing right now. We spent a significant amount of time on the municipal project looking at all of those scenarios. In the end, we went with ground source heat pumps. We went with several green roofs. We had a completely solar ready on the building. We added about $900,000 to the project to do that, but that was the community willing to make that investment as a group. And it took a couple months of talking, negotiations, looking at all the options, but we can do all that if you want. If I'm directed, we can do that. So,
Yeah, that's very helpful, and, you know, I mean, I'm just one person on this committee, but, you know, I for one, you know, think that we are being, you know, penny wise and pound foolish if we're thinking just about the initial, you know, cost of this project. I would like, you know, I myself would like to think about, you know, the long-term cost, not only in dollars and cents, but to the environment.
yeah.
And I think that's been brought home to us recently with the new, I don't know if it was the United Nations or, you know, some group recently talked about how we're in a crisis, folks. I mean, this is, you know, the global warming is factual, and it's much worse than, you know, than we first thought when you know, Senator former Vice President Gore you know, came out with those movies and things, and it's you know, it's a lot worse than even what he predicted. So
I think one thing I heard, what I found really interesting about that was each person, each community needs to step up and do something. It's not going to be, you know, the United States government that's going to set the rules. It's going to be the city of Nashua and the city of Portsmouth and, you know, whatever other communities. Everybody has to do their part. And we could talk about what that means to the project. So I will.
And
yeah.
if I could also say, I would expect that, you know, I think the current administration and the current Congress, you know, they're probably, you know, hopefully they're going to be making, you know, grants available, money available that would help, you know, finance systems that would be better for the environment. And, you know, you talk about the, you know, the small buildings, so we got a small rooftop, but, you know, there's a lot of land around this area that could be used for solar arrays, maybe. I mean, I don't know a lot about that stuff, but I would just like us to think about that.
That's good points, definitely.
Definitely. Okay.
I think we'll take that under consideration and to look at it. We are, though, getting to the point where, you might correct Director Cummings, where we could have to nail this project
That's correct.
at some point, you know, in order, because like Director Cummings has said, time is money, you know, so we're gonna very soon, but we'll look into that, you know, for sure. If you're all set,
Yes,
Alderman
thank you.
Jettie, thank you. We do have Commissioner Tease.
Thank you, Chairman O'Brien. I appreciate what Alderman Jettie just said, because what went through my head initially was maybe some grants in the future. And I'm wondering, you know, whereas we're building a building for X dollars, this is a project. We also approve a budget every year. And I'm sure somewhere exists a capital expenditure or CapEx improvement, right? The building should last 50 years. Mechanicals are going to fail well before 50. Are we able to think forward and say, hey, over the next 10 years, we want to replace A, B, and C and be able to position the building itself so it's easily adaptable to introduce these new systems as monies become available, or is it just impossible to go from electric and gas to geothermal?
I would say that's pretty tough to do because, you know, there's a lot of planning that goes into well planning. You know, having just done this on a huge project right now, you know, there's a lot of testing that goes on. Test wells have to be built, and then how you get that infrastructure and provide for that in the building. That being said, I would defer, as I'm an architect, not a mechanical engineer. I will call my engineer tomorrow and chat with him about this and talk to them about, you know, what it would take. Is it convertible? Is there anything that can be done? So as new systems come on, mechanical systems should last for about 20 years. I mean, if they're well designed and well put together, they should last about 20 years. So you do have about a 20-year life on this. What's the payback on this system versus another system? We'd have to look at that. That's why the life cycle cost thing may come into play here. So I'll make that call, see what I can do, and plan for it, you know. because it's just not that easy to switch midway. I mean, you may be able to use some of the infrastructure, ductwork, supplies and returns, but the actual
In my
big
mind,
plan.
it's like taking a gasoline-powered car and
Yeah.
then converting it to electric. It's just not that, you're not gonna just want to.
Nah, not typically,
All right.
not typically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All set, Commissioner Teese?
Thank you.
All right, I have next in the queue Alderman Dow.
I just want to ask Carl to
I
see.
knew this was coming.
This is a distributed air system?
No. It's not what you've been doing in the schools. It'll be an all-air system, but it's not.
It's not all air system, so the source units can be switched out without affecting.
We could look at it distributed air. I mean, it's much
Yeah.
quieter, it's a little different system than I think what's being proposed.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly.
I also want to remind everybody, and you'll remember this, when Brian McCarthy was around, and we were looking at the elementary schools, and we hired that firm out of Concord, New Hampshire. We looked at geothermal for the schools, and I'm not sure how DPW goes out. I think it's different than the school department in terms of purchasing their fuels, be it electric or be it gas or oil. But back when we were doing the elementary schools, the payback wasn't there to do geothermal. Now, things may have changed, we certainly could look at it again. But the payback at the time, the decision was made that it's too far out.
Right.
You must be replacing some of the equipment before you get the full payback. But that was only because, truly because, the school department and the programs, the national programs that they were in, the purchasing of electricity and fuel was pretty low at the time. That made it very tough to try to make that transition.
I would suggest the engineers take a look at it and come back to the committee.
Yeah.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
we're looking at it, yes.
And if I may also suggest too, cost-benefit analysis and looking at it. Now, you say your traditional mechanical system has a life expectancy of around 20 years. What is the life expectancy of this?
The one we're proposing.
Right, so that we can weigh that balance and looking at it, equally with that, so.
How about the
Alderman Shoneman? Excuse me, Commissioner Shoneman. There used to be an Alderman Shoneman, excuse me.
I want to say that I really, I admire and respect what Director Photo wants to provide for her people. They're a hardworking bunch. They do a lot for the city. But as Mr. Dubois pointed out, we're all feeling the pinch. It may be a global warming crisis, but I think the financial crisis, the debt burden we're putting on our kids is egregious. The taxes, what we're borrowing for all the projects we're doing right now is massive. And we justify it by saying, well, if we wait 2 years, it's going to be more. Aren't there alternatives? Are there no vacant buildings in Nashua that can house something? Is there no room for any kind of austerity? Just spend, borrow as much as you can get away with. And put the burden on the next generation. I think it's egregious. I think the taxpayers are unhappy about it. And I think that it would be very nice to see an alternative. I'm not in favor of this project as it's stated here. The cost is going up. It was 9 million, it was 10 million, now it's 15 million. Same with the PAC, same with the middle schools. Where does it end? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Director Cummings?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple points. Relative to, is there an empty office building? The answer to that is no. There is not, 25,000 square feet of office space just readily available that's functionally usable. That's a good problem, actually. I mean, from an economic perspective, I love the fact that we're full. better than being empty. It means we have jobs, it means we have full parking lots. But the reality of the situation is, you know, it's very hard to nearly impossible to find that much square footage, that block of space, available in our marketplace. So that's just really not an option. And then relative to the costs increases, I understand that, I hear that, I'm very sympathetic to that. That's why I always try to make the point that time is money, to try to keep the costs down as much as possible.
Any further questions from any committee members? Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. I wanted to say this before, but I got on that other topic. I wanted to thank the architect and whoever else was responsible for moving the building away from the abutter and preserving more trees.
We're calling it the Jettie switch.
Thank you.
We'll put up a sign.
Now, and in fairness and full disclosure, we're still vetting that out. So I just don't want there to be any bait and switch. We are absolutely trying to move in that direction, but there's still further due diligence and investigation that needs to be done before we can say 100% that's what we're doing. But that is the direction we're going right now.
Correct. Yeah. Soil testing, things like that.
And
Alderman Jettie.
another point, you know, I hope no one's armed in this room when I say this, but to Commissioner Schoeneman's point, and you're not wearing a piece, are you? Because I know you're gonna.
No.
But this thought just occurred to me, and so I'm just going to throw it out there. The Elm Street Middle School that is on schedule to be vacated at some point. You know, that I kind of looked at that as a, you know, the possibility of that becoming kind of like a municipal complex. Is it too late in this project to consider that, or have you considered it already and rejected it?
So I can speak to that, because I have thought about that as for just a general municipal use, but the conversion costs of an institutional use, in this case an educational use, to an office space use is going to be significant. Actually, in preparation for that, we actually had Carl DeBar and the team, Harvey team, update their renovation approach to see if we were still trying to do this project as efficiently as possible. And what we know is last time around when we looked at the renovation approach, that scattered approach, not consolidating everyone, we were at about $16 million in project cost. Just right now it was recosted, and Harvey told us it would be just about $20 million. So that's a $4 million increase right there, just to do that scattered renovation approach, which is something that was contemplated, and it's just not the most efficient. And I can tell you, you're going to go through the same exercise with Elm Street, because you're trying to put a round peg into a square hole, and it's just not going to work.
I think anybody that reads the report we did on the condition of that building would not recommend that building.
That building has definitely served Nashua well.
It's 85 years old to begin with.
Yeah, and you've gotten every ounce out of it.
Yeah.
But good question. Yeah, good
Yeah.
question.
The other thing to consider is right now where the current home, which is this building of DPW, seems another city agency has some interest in that, and if that comes to fruition, then there could be there's other hidden costs of money savings that are out there as taking care of this project out at the landfill. And if this one becomes available, even if it gets sold off the city rolls, will come at a particular price that maybe could be deferred, maybe back to the project or not. But so there's other hidden costs, that could be a benefit to the city. So you've got to weigh the balance with them equally as well too, and to look at that. So it's not just, I don't want to get the taxpayers to think that this is all a complete loss. There are some benefits to moving progressively forward and getting the structure. And then keep in mind, this is, as we're looking in the future, this is a phased project, and I think I'll refer to Director Photo. Is this possibly we may be looking at a phase 2 of the project in the future, maybe with a garage that is needed, or land that is across the street here that's in terrible shape, so so these things have the benefit, as we go on. So you got to weigh the balance in the whole complete context of what is actually happening here.
Yeah, that is the ultimate master plan. That's great.
Yeah, I like to say, maybe I'm wrong, but it's like pieces of the puzzle, it doesn't make any sense until you start putting it in, and it's all interconnected, and at the end you gotta, whatever you wanted to make the puzzle out of, good for rainy days. Any other further questions from a member of the committee? Okay, seeing none, just to make sure,
Mr. Chair?
I was gonna call, Commissioner Pappas?
Yes, I have a couple of questions and.
Oh, absolutely, I was gonna call on you, because I can't see your hand, so, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. I have a question for the architect. I was looking through the meeting minutes from the 2019, November 2019, and at that point, it was just going to be the office staff, no AFSCME employees that were going to be at the building. It was going to be the people from, everyone from engineering, and then office staff from Park Rec, and the street department. But the AFSCME employees were gonna stay in their the same work areas for a bit. I'd like to know what changed between November 2019 to when we decided to move everyone except the mechanics over. Obviously, the folks from the wastewater treatment plant are going to stay over there.
Would you like me to?
Yes, I would like you to start.
Janet? So, I've said many times that the only departments that will not be moving are the street department, just because of the facility. They need their equipment there. There may be some administrative staff that moves over, 2 or 3 people, but primarily the street department will stay where they are, and of course the wastewater department will stay. Other than that, the entire solid waste department, park and rec department, and administration and engineering would be moving over to the new building. Now, there could be a few people that may stay, 1, 2, or 3 people that may stay in Greeley Park, just for maintenance purposes, but by and large, the majority, there'll be about 80 people that would be moving into the new building.
But if I look through that's not what was stated in November 2019.
I don't have the minutes.
It wasn't what was stated.
I don't have the minutes in front of me, but I know since then, Commissioner Pappas, I've said at many meetings that this is the case, what I just said.
Okay. Another couple of things I wanted to point out is that that July of 2020 is when the traffic impact study was done, so it was not done in 2019. But what I did notice is some of the traffic counts were done in June and July, and I don't think that necessarily is going to be a great reflection, especially if you think in terms of the schools. The other thing I noticed is what we got from the state of New Hampshire. Some of their traffic reports went as far back as 2015. So I just wanted to express my concern there, and just generally for the neighborhood, I think that they thought they were just going to get an office building over there, and I don't think that they necessarily expected to get all the all the activity from both streets and Parks and Rec and snow removal. I know, the folks who live near it now are kind of used to it. And, I'm hoping that there'll be some sort of sound mitigation for the people who do live over there, because as I said, I always feel badly because they already do host the landfill, which I think is a pretty big sacrifice. It's a great addition for our city, and they do sacrifice a lot by living near there. Another couple of questions and comments. When did the smaller committee meet?
Last, yeah, Commissioner Pappas, it met last week, I think, and the intention of it was actually more a get-together. It was not an official meeting, nothing was voted on or anything. It was basically a work group. As you know, we are following the city charter, where the former Lands and Buildings Committee is now the Infrastructure Committee and is in charge of these projects. So the intention of the meeting was to get together to work with the, the Board of Public Works to come up with the ideas to meet the principles and stuff like that. So it was just basically like I don't want to say a dress rehearsal, but like just basically getting together. There was no vote, nothing that would be concerned to the public.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So just a couple of clarifying items. One, it was last Tuesday. Two, it was a publicly noticed meeting. Three, it came about because we set out a process at the last meeting where we discussed that we were going to develop a working group. We appointed some members to be part of that working group. And so it was, a working group session that led into this full joint committee meeting, because that was the process that we had outlined when we started this initiative.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, you may, Commissioner.
Okay.
Commissioner Pappas?
Was she dropped?
We've seen Commissioner Pappas. Okay, hopefully Commissioner Pappas will be able to get back to us. Yes, are you still there?
Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
we're still here.
Okay, so so we met on the 25th of May, both together. And we didn't get that in the packet.
Thank you.
There really was no packet, just a very short agenda. And I think that if you have some information from the, first off, from the prior meeting, I think that I think as a board, we really should be looking over and reviewing the meeting minutes. And I think that's important. And I think also maybe when you guys have those meetings, just give other people a heads up, and maybe just give an agenda so that the larger board from the two kind of know what's going on, and just via email maybe send any information that the architect has sent, because I really think that this has to be out in the open. This is a very expensive project, and as I said, I think to get just a very short agenda really is not the way we should be conducting city business. We should be approving meeting minutes. Now, where does that smaller working group meet?
Here.
It meets here.
And
A Riverside. I'm going to Director Cummings.
Thank you. Yes. So we had a working group session last Tuesday. It was noticed. And also, just want to clarify for the record, at the previous full board meeting of this body, when we set out this process, we also outlined that we were not going to take verbatim minutes at the working group meetings. We were going to just comply with the statutory requirement, but this full board meeting would have verbatim minutes, and that is exactly what we're doing.
I understand, but we didn't receive any of that should be part of the packet. We should be, when we go ahead and get this joint meeting in Infrastructure Board Public Works, we ought to be getting the meeting minutes from the last time we met, looking through them, making sure they're accurate, approving them, and then also, I would certainly hope, receiving meeting minutes from the working group. I had found it to be a real problem with the last time we tried to do the facility on Burke Street. I was one who had voted against the purchase of it because we didn't have enough information. And I think it's really difficult for us to be expected to spend this much money and kind of be left in the dark. Because quite honestly, in November 2019, we did say that the AFSCME employees wouldn't be there initially, and I think it was sold differently to the community around the landfill. And I think we need to be as open as possible and fair. And I think when you have an agenda, one of the first things on it should be approving the meeting minutes from the time before. And I never questioned the fact that they're not verbatim minutes at the small group, it's your smaller working group. But I think that, perhaps sharing materials that the architects share, or the folks from Harvey, they seem right on top of their game. And, I'm sure that they'd be more than happy to share it. So I just think that would be the considerate thing to do. And I think if the community's being asked to fund such a large project, I think the least we could do about it is to be as open as possible as we can. It's just an observation, not a criticism. Thank you.
You want to respond?
Yeah.
Okay, Director Cummings would like to respond.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank her for her comments. They're well taken. And also, I failed to mention earlier, so I just want to make sure it's on the record, that this meeting was properly noticed. I just double-checked during the meeting. This is a properly constituted public meeting, and I just want to make sure that the record reflects that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and to that vein, I will show you, Ms. Ortolano, where that is and where you can find it for the future reference. So, just for information purposes, for that. But, yes, Commissioner Pappas.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I just want to make clear. So maybe at our next meeting, we can approve the minutes from this meeting and then from the May meeting, and then perhaps just share with us, whatever the working group had done, and just maybe to have someone, give an oral update. As I said, I think if we're asking the community to invest this much money, I do think that I'm not saying people were trying to hide anything, but I just think to keep, I know people are busy, but if we can try to keep in mind, the more we show people, I think it will make people feel more at ease for the project.
Yes, Commissioner Pappas, as chairman, I assure you, everything will be done like this is the first meeting. Yes, next meeting there will be minutes to approve. Believe me, I'll make sure everything is legally done, because that is my responsibility as chairman, and I assure you it will be done forthwith. Okay, any other additional comments, Commissioner Pappas?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tees.
Yes, I'd like the record to reflect that the meeting that we had last week was candidly exactly what we saw on the screen. So there wasn't really a lot more that was discussed. It was basically an update, and I agree with Commissioner Pappas in terms of seeing the minutes for sure. So I appreciate her bringing that to our attention.
All right. Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, I would like to thank Jan Somender of HKT Architects. Thank you for your presentation. Very good. It's a beautiful building. And I will now refer to Director Cummings. Do you have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to serve Mr. Jim, I'd like to make a recommendation that this body make a motion to proceed with the proposed finance plan as outlined and request a new bond resolution to be filed with the Board of Aldermen seeking an additional $2 million in debt authorization for a DPW administrative office building.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Does anybody would you like to speak to your motion?
I can't make the motion, so I'm...
Oh, you can't? Oh, okay, thank you. Is there clarity? So moved. Commissioner, motion moved by Commissioner Tease. Okay, any comments on the motion?
You have to take the vote by roll.
Yeah. Seeing none, I will call the vote by roll call.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Alderman Tenza is not with us today. Alderman Lopez, did you join us? Nope, I don't believe he did either. Alderwoman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas,
No.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Tease,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman,
No.
with 6 in the affirmative and 2 in the negative, the motion passes.
Okay, the motion carries. We have another pending motion. Would be to, Director Cummings, do you want to read it?
Yeah.
Since you're acting as clerk, please?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
And I will not calling you to make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just bear with me for 1 second. I wanna
Absolutely.
just get the technology right here. So this is a very simple and minor matter, but nonetheless one that I want to bring to this body's attention. I'm just sharing the screen now that I learned that I need to do that. I'm asking that this body make a favorable recommendation to the Finance Committee. For those of you who don't know, by way of our process, this body needs to make recommendations to the Finance Committee for approval for any type of financial changes. About a month and a half ago, I would say mid-June to the end of June, we learned that a state permit was going to be required and we did not have that as originally part of the HKT design contract. So what I'm asking for is to update and amend the HKT contract by $29,360 so we can proceed with the project at hand. This is a state permit that we need. If we do not get this state permit, we cannot proceed with the project. And just so folks know, so it's clear, because of the time sensitivity of this, it takes about a month or so to put an application together, and it takes about 6 months to get an approval of the AOT permit. And so wanting to keep with the timeline, we have enough money in the contract in a different phase to be able to produce the permit. So what we would be doing is backfilling some money that we were previously earmarked for another reason. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. But essentially what I'm looking for this afternoon is to recommend favorably to the Finance Committee that HKT Architects contract be increased by $29,360 as outlined in their communication dated July 7th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. So the motion before us, and I was looking for somebody to make the motion if Commissioner Tease want to, but I would recommend that it would be to recommend to the Finance Committee that HKT Architects contract be increased by $29,360 as outlined in the communication dated July 7th, 2021 to Director Photo.
I'd be pleased to make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Tease.
And I have a choice.
Is there a discussion on the motion? Alderman Jettie?
Mr. Chair? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I will recognize you right now. I'll get you in the queue, Commissioner Pappas. I got Alderman Jettie right now.
So could I ask why the necessity for this alteration of terrain permit came as a surprise? Why is that necessary, and wouldn't we know about this before?
An alteration of terrain is essentially what it's saying, that we are altering the terrain at the landfill. And if the building was kept smaller and the parking was kept much smaller, we might be able to squeak by. But there's a limit, a top limit that they look at. And when you get dangerously close to that top limit, which we are, they begin to question. So we looked at that, we looked at all the parking needs, we looked at what the city wants to develop on that site, and we looked a little bit into the future, and we said this is money well spent now. It will save any questioning on the site right now if what we want to do. If we did not go after this, then we'd be cutting the site development back significantly to happen. So there was a lot of conversation about this with everybody, and the decision was made to go for the landfill does these alterations of the terrain on a regular basis. They have one ongoing right now. I don't know if it's been approved, but it happens every time they sort of touch the landfill site. So it's under a lot of scrutiny by the state already, and which is one of our big concerns. So we could, if the decision was to go smaller on the site or get smaller parking, then we might be able to squeak by. But if the decision was made by the city to take that step and move forward with the permit, and that's why it wasn't part of the original proposal. So.
Could I follow up?
Follow up, please. Yes.
So it's because of the landfill that is...
Well, no, it's because of this project. It happens to be on this landfill. So if you would do this anywhere in town and you would be developing a property, you would have to file an alteration of terrain permit. It just happens to be on the landfill, which has a lot of eyes on it already. But it's not, they're not connected. We actually looked to see if we could link up to the other alteration of terrain permit that's ongoing. We couldn't do that without jeopardizing that permit, which has altogether to do with the landfill. So we tried to see if there were any workarounds, and there weren't. And so we decided to be, very clear and upfront and protect the project, going forward in the parking and the site development. We have a road, we have parking, we have the building, and all together that makes up a limit of how much you can develop per site. And so we were on that edge. We were right on the edge, and it was so close to going over, and it might even go over, in the end. And we decided that the city decided it was worth doing.
Okay, so it's the size of the project.
It's the size of the project, correct.
All right. Alderman Dowd, I do have you in the queue unless you have something in
It's
it.
just for information.
Okay, then you may
We have to do this
go.
on all 3 school sites.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's a state requirement, and you've got to do it.
You've got to do it.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Dowd. Commissioner Pappas, you're ready with your question?
Yes. I'm curious as to why these items weren't on the agenda. I know, I know I don't like surprises. I'd like to know what's going to come in a meeting. And I'm just wondering why these weren't on the agenda.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
I'm looking at agenda item number 3, other discussion items, and there's a bullet that says amendment to the architect's contract on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. But if, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, you may, Commissioner Pappas.
So, but if you knew what it was going to be, it could have been in more detail. You're not used to working with an elected board. We normally, I don't see money as easy come, easy go, and I really like to think about things. And if you knew if you knew exactly what the motion was going to be, I would find it really helpful in the future to be as detailed as possible. I think we owe that to the citizens of Nashua.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pappas. Any other further questions by any committee members? Seeing none, I will ask Director Cummings to call for the vote.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Alderman Dave Tenz is not with us this evening. I don't believe Alderman Tom Lopez is with us this evening. Again, Alderwoman Jan Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Ernie Jettie,
Yes.
Commissioner Tracy Pappas,
No?
Commissioner Kevin Moriarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank Tees,
Yes.
and Commissioner Shoneman.
No.
With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor and 2 in the
Nays.
in the minority, the motion passes.
All right, the motion passes. We're gonna, I am, as chairman, gonna refer this to the Committee on Finance. So that's one that will appear next. Next on the agenda is other items for discussion, and I'm gonna turn to Director Cummins to bring up several points to inform the board.
Yes, thank you. This is just, want to make the board aware of the fact that we will have some more contracts coming down the pike, and I don't want any surprises. We will be looking to do a construction manager contract. We will be looking to do a commissioning agent contract. We will be looking to do a testings of material type contract. So there's going to be 4 or 5 contracts that will be coming before this body in the near future, and I want to make you aware of that. And then the last item was something that I would recommend that this group do, and I wanted to talk about a timeline for that, is maybe September, early October, doing a life cycle cost type of analysis and having a presentation by the architect and the design team to make sure we're doing everything appropriately. So those were some just miscellaneous discussion items I wanted to bring to this body's attention, and ask that you consider getting together again sometime. We need to consult with the architect, but probably sometime at the end of September, if that works for people's schedules.
Okay, if I can have, if everybody's in agreement, Director Cummings, why don't you facilitate that? Keep everybody, you know, the daisy chain of the email loop. Get that and then coordinate with all the particulars, and we'll get it going. So it seems like next month will be the next day that we will be meeting.
That's it.
That's it?
That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Also, too, just to remind Ms. Ortolano, after the meeting, come see me and we'll see if we clear that up just to make sure. Okay. The other thing I want to thank everybody for coming is the first meeting, and I think it went off pretty good. I appreciate everybody. You've done a yeoman's effort, and less the AC, it had to be shut off, so, which is good. And I know our alderman tonight, hopefully you have time to go out and get a sandwich and a cup of coffee before our next 2 meetings that we're pending to be with. So I like, again, thank everybody, and thank you to the public for joining us here. So without further ado, I'm going to look to my, oh yes, Commissioner Tees.
I got move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I was going to ask it, but yes, we have a motion to adjourn. Can the clerk please call the roll? Director Cummings.
Yes, happy to. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Alderman Tenz is not with us this evening. Alderman Lopez is not with us this evening. Alderwoman Schmidt?
Yes.
Alderman Jettie?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes?
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Tees? And Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
It's unanimously approved that you, motion passes.
Okay, motion passes, and I'm going to declare the meeting closed at 17:23 or 5:23 for those non-nautical people. Okay. Again, thank you, everybody.